somebody with some superhero gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss, just something I can turn to, somebody I can miss. I want something just like this. I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. Somebody, oh, somebody, somebody, oh. I want something just like this. Somebody, oh, somebody, somebody, oh. I want something just like this. Somebody, oh, somebody, somebody, oh. I want something just like this. Somebody, oh, somebody, somebody, oh. I want something just like this.
Good evening, everyone. I'm April Goebel, and I'm grateful to be here tonight to honor one of my heroes. As the first in my family to graduate from college, with 4 of my siblings dropping out of high school, and growing up with a teenage mother on and off welfare in rural Indiana, I'm standing here tonight strong and confident because of the influence and proximity of extraordinary women like Kaya Henderson. But before I share how Kaya's journey has influenced me, I'd like to pause and take a moment to recognize Deborah Quazzo, not only for her personal influence in my life, but for her ability to bring together such an extraordinary group of women and leaders from across the country. So back to Kaya. I first met Kaya Henderson in 1998 in Washington, D.C., my first year of teaching, when Kaya was the executive director of Teach for America. I can still remember Kaya standing in the principal's office at my placement school in Southeast D.C., Shad Elementary. A month before Kaya's visit, student records were burned in the parking lot, students were placed in the wrong grades, and the entire teaching staff and administration were fired. Our school was in complete chaos. Kaya was there as an advocate for our children and was there to demand change. She was fierce, she was bold, she was persistent, she was someone that I wanted to be like. Over the years, I would admire Kaya's impact on the children in DC. She continued expanding her influence even more, most recently as the Chancellor of DC Public Schools. From 2010 to 2016, under her leadership, the embattled district became the fastest improving urban school system in the country. Her tenure was marked, yes, that's a round of applause. Her tenure was marked by consecutive years of enrollment growth, the highest graduation rates in the history of the district, improvements in student satisfaction and teacher retention, increases in AP participation and pass rates, and the greatest growth of any urban district on the National Assessment of Education Progress over multiple years. In addition to all of the other accolades we've heard tonight, for me personally, the one that stands out the most is the impact that Kaya had on the community where I began my teaching career. 20 years ago, there was not a path to and through college for the children that I was serving. But this past year, 100% of Ballew's senior class applied to college, the same community where I was teaching where the chaos was the norm. This took years of service, dedication, the vision of an innovative leader to create that type of change, both on a school and a district level. And rest assured, if anyone thinks that Kaya Henderson has taken a break, her volunteer work is incredible. She is, and I'm going to read all of this here. She's actively involved in a number of community and professional organizations, including the Aspen Board of Trustees, College Board of Trustees, Executive Committee of the Council of Great City Schools, International Women's Foundation, the Chair of the Board of Education Leaders of Color, EDLOC, Georgetown University Board of Trustees, the Pahara Aspen Fellowship, the Nevada Leadership Institute, one of my favorites in Chicago, the Surge Institute Board of Directors, Ed Navigator Board of Directors, Teach for All Global Advisory Council, and the John F. Kennedy Center Board of Trustees. At the end of my commitment in the Corps, Kaya stood in front of the DC Corps and gave me an award called the Cartier Award for Excellence in Teaching and Community Engagement. So tonight, it is very full circle for me to pay tribute to a truly remarkable woman. Thank you, Kaya, for teaching me how to lead from an authentic place. The world is truly better because of your love for the communities you served. Kaya, congratulations on receiving the Innovator of Color Award. Would you please stand in recognition and deep gratitude?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Patrick Brothers.
Good evening and welcome to the closing dinner of the 2017 ASU GSV Summit. My name is Patrick Brothers and I'm the CEO of Navitas Ventures. This year we're presenting Global Silicon Alley and a proud partner of the summit. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening, and I don't know about you, but what has been an incredibly intense 3 days. Let's put our hands together for Deborah, Michael, and a magnificent team that make this all happen. I hope you all saw Navitas's global landscape of 5,000, soon 30,000 companies shaping the future of education and talent. But I'm sure you all watched many of the 7-minute pitches from over 300 companies who made up Global Silicon Alley this year. So without further ado, it's my privilege to announce this year's 3 winners. Stellar Employ, Wiser, and MathSpace. I'd like to invite Sarah Nadell from Stellar Employ to join us here on the stage. Sarah? Great.
Hi everyone, I am Sarah Nadell and I am thrilled to talk to you tonight about how Stellar Employ is already saving our very first client more than $2.5 million in reduced turnover and increased productivity, and how we plan to place 10 million workers who are happier, more productive, and more stable in their jobs by 2020. So the internet really hasn't improved job search in the W-2 hourly job space. At best, it's moved classified ads online and maybe added a keyword search. At Stellar Employ, we believe that there's a place for everyone, and everyone is good at something. And we call ourselves a job discovery platform. We connect people in the W-2 hourly job space to the jobs where they're most likely to excel based on a proprietary, preference-based machine learning algorithm. And so to get a sense of how important solving the problem of job matches, I want you to all take a moment and guess, how much money do you think is spent replacing crew members at Burger King every single year? And while you think about that, I'll just point out you're going to be hearing a lot about Burger King tonight because one of their franchisees was our very first client. So if you guessed $1 billion, you would have been correct. And that's due to surprisingly high turnover, a surprisingly high cost of replacement, and the very high number of workers in crew positions at Burger King. And Burger King is not alone. It represents less than 1% of the W-2 hourly job market in the United States. And so when we look at fast food, retail, call centers, and distribution, at Stellar Employee's current price point, we're looking at a $1.6 billion opportunity. And that doesn't even include other hourly jobs in the US or international opportunities. And we've already demonstrated our product in Peru and in Nigeria. So why is this such a big problem? What's going wrong? Well, in the current job market, hourly job seekers are spreading their resumes or their applications far and wide, and employers are getting inundated with applications that really don't have a whole lot of information. When you're filling a job that doesn't require a particular education or a particular work skill, you really don't know what to base it on. And so it takes an average of 5 phone calls just to get a job seeker on the phone. Employers typically hire the first person who's above the bar who can work the shift they're trying to fill. Job seekers take the first job they get. This is really not successful matching. It's essentially random. And so what I want to convince you of tonight is that there is an opportunity to connect people to the jobs where they're most likely to do well, using real information about those job seekers. And that's where we come in. Stellar Employee is based on something called the ERI, the effort reward imbalance. And it's actually pretty basic when you think about it. It says that different types of people experience different types of effort differently, and different types of people experience different types of rewards differently. Your ideal job is relatively low effort and relatively high reward, and you and I are different, so our ideal jobs are different. Now, we've been able to use this to get down to a level of granularity that might be surprising. So Burger King and Domino's, which are both clients of ours, look for actually their ideal employees are really different. At Burger King, an ideal employee is an inveterate multitasker. And if you've been to a Burger King recently, you would know that. There's a really big menu list, and it takes an average of 3 to 4 people to fill every order. At Domino's, the ideal employee is actually an attention to detail person, which also makes sense if you've been to a Domino's recently. It's mostly about getting the toppings correct, and it takes 1 to 2 people to fill every order. So now job seekers can go from saying, well, I'm a fast food person, to I'm a Domino's person, or I'm a Burger King person. And so here's how it works in practice. Job seekers come to our website, they answer 15 minutes of questions about themselves, and we can give them a list of jobs where they are most likely to succeed. Employers trust us to schedule interviews for them right off the bat, and frontline managers set aside 1 to 2 hours every single week to interview our candidates. Meanwhile, their supervisors and directors can track and reward best hiring practices. Now, on the job seeker side, they use our platform for free, and they benefit through more stable job placements and quicker job placements and increased productivity, which we've already seen examples of employers paying more because we're giving them better workers. And we are very proud to say that we believe that in 2017 we'll have generated more than $200,000 in additional income just for our placements in Q1 of this year. Thank you. And on the employer side, I'll just walk you through the ROI of our very first client. So this is Cambridge Franchise Holdings. They're a 120 Burger King franchisee based out of Memphis, Tennessee. And when they came to us, they were spending $8.5 million dealing with turnover every single year. We charged them $110,000 annually, and they're expecting to see a $2.5 million savings in a 30 percentage point reduction in turnover this year. We've already demonstrated the reduction in turnover. Additionally, they're expecting to see about $500,000 in increased productivity. So Burger King estimates that every 1 second improvement in speed of service generates about $450 in additional sales every single month. And we've seen up to a 7-second improvement in speed of service in many of those locations. So it's not a surprise that we're seeing the number of placements and the amount of logging in increasing every single week. And our users really like us. So my favorite is Toju, who said, "I can't believe we haven't been doing it this way all along." We started with a focus on fast food, and we're currently operational in 150 locations, but we also service cleaning services, distribution centers, and we're just about to begin with our first call center. And so over the next 18 months, look for a real improvement in the unit economics of the product. We currently get about $900 per year for every fast food location. I'll focus on that, of which $300 is operating profit. By the end of 2018, we'll have increased our price due to additional add-ons in services, and we'll have automated much of our communication with employers and with applicants. So we'll be getting $1,200 in revenue, of which we expect about $1,000 to be operating profit. We really think we've hit the nail on the head with the hourly job market, and we see exit opportunities with existing job market platforms, strategic investors, or tech companies which are getting into the hourly job space, and we very much believe that we have the team to do it. I came up with the concept of stellar employee while I was completing my PhD at Harvard University. My background is in behavioral science, statistical analysis, and the economics of poverty alleviation. Carlos Montoya, our VP of Product, has more than 20 years of experience building and managing development teams. And Irene Chung, our VP of Product, is the MBA of the crew. She also has consulting experience, app development experience, and executive headhunting experience. We've done all of this with just 3 full-time employees, but we have a lot of very supportive advisors. Henry Delouvrier's background is as a product and strategy manager at ZocDoc, and Tom Berry, our very first investor, through his company Zephyr Management, has made a fortune investing in products geared at the bottom of the pyramid populations. Thank you so much for listening. It was a joy to talk to you about the product.
Okay, fantastic. I'd now like to invite Kate Volzer from Wiser to join me on the stage. Thank you. Hey, Kate.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking over this way. Okay. I'll look after this.
Thank you. I was promised Eye of the Tiger as my intro music, so I'll take that. Pyrotechnics, too. My name is Kate Volzer. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Wiser. We are higher education's leading knowledge-sharing community. We are an alumni career network. Oh, this is a little blurry. Student advising platform and dedicated marketing team all rolled into one platform. We engage all constituents inside of a university network. We are 14 months old, and we are headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, the city of champions. And so naturally, when I saw Steph Curry walking through the lobby 2 days ago, I was underwhelmed. Go Cavs. We are a 7-person team, a combination of education and education technology veterans. We launched in 5 highly successful formats on 5 different university campuses, all of them paying us to help co-develop the software. We have, well now actually, since submitting this, we have over $2 million in active pipe, and then we also have over 100 opportunities. And I am so proud to say that I'm here today not raising money. These are some of the these are the logos of the campuses that we did partner with. We started out as a mentorship platform, but quickly realized that we were onto something more. And we grew into a true community, sharing, making alumni available for students like me, first generation kids that just didn't really know what was out there for them. So we make it easy for our users to opt in via a mobile optimized platform. We use social authentication to populate profiles in under 60 seconds. We also pre-verify entire alumni directories so that if you are part of the community, your institution should know that you're actually part of the community and you're immediately welcomed into the platform. We make it easier for students who don't know what they want, so marketing is not like Mad Men, as it turns out. And the marketing that my mom did for her spa salon was quite different than the marketing that I hope to do and currently do at Wiser. So finding alumni profiles, teaching students how to ask for help, removing as many barriers as possible. So this is a screenshot of our agenda builder, which is configurable by the institution. So if you are a STEM school, you can say, let's talk about, science, math, very techie things. One of our clients is a very religious institution, and one of their topics of conversation is actually relocating to a new city and finding a place of worship. We eliminate the need to exchange personal information ahead of confirming a session. So we actually provide a conference bridge and access code for each session so that our institutions can finally measure alumni engagement. All of this data we're capturing, time-stamped everything, and we put it into real-time dashboards. This is a real dashboard for Case Western Reserve University. We actually provide kind of sub-dashboards for other constituents inside of an institution. We actually work with 3 alumni associations at Case Western in helping them to unify their data transfer. We've had rapid traction out of the gate, and it has really been incredible to have true partners in the process. And I think we did the right thing by pausing to take 6 months to work with all of these campuses to do right by them and build their communities. So inside of 6 weeks, we had over 2,000 members inside of the Case Western Reserve Network. The University of Chicago, my alma mater, has recently upgraded to include all of their graduate programs, including the professional degree programs. Cedarville University and Case Western Reserve have actually made us an academic requirement. So career services becoming a requirement in the classroom. Denison University and Oberlin they've seen so much success with us that they're in the place of kind of letting go of another software platform, which Wiser now fills the gap for. Overall, we've increased alumni engagement by 300% across all of our constituents. We have a growing pipeline. Our average deal size is $20,000. Again, the total pipe is now over $2 million. My sales team crushes it. They're watching it. Good job, guys. Keep up the good work. Hit the phones tomorrow morning. We're skipping a meeting. We have over 100 opportunities in pipe, and those are some of the logos in the bottom right corner that we're actively implementing. A CEO is nothing without their team, and I am so proud to have these co-founders as mentors and peers. John, Chris, and I are the perfect combination of hustler, hipster, and hacker in that order. I don't consider myself a hipster. John up front is the hipster. My background, I worked in higher education for 5 years in a combination of admissions and career services. So I did have the opportunity to live the real pain that some of our colleagues in the career services offices did, navigating LinkedIn, static alumni directories in order to help students. I met John Kniffick when he was the CEO, co-founder of Decision Desk, and that's where I learned about software. Sorry for having you teach me about databases. It's working now. That's where I learned how to sell. My first contract was 4 figures. My second contract was 7 figures. I have my MBA from Chicago Booth in economics, entrepreneurship, and a couple other long concentrations that they need to work on condensing. John is the best mentor and coach that a CEO could have. He grew Decision Desk to over 25 employees. It is currently still a very successful company. He raised over $7 million in kind of traditional venture and then non-traditional funding. He was the entrepreneur in residence at Oberlin. Chris Ciccarello is our CTO. Man, he's incredible. He has built consumer-grade SaaS products in the past, which is, I think, something that higher ed has been lacking. So I'm very proud to have our high-quality software that we do have. He also has experience managing and leading a large team of software developers. Again, we are not raising money, but our round was led by the North Coast Angel Fund and Jumpstart Ventures, which are both Cleveland-based funds. Some angels in the education technology space, Jason Palmer, Raj Kaji, Investor Ventures based out of Chicago. Assuming we continue on the trajectory that we're on right now, we will explore a Series A in early 2018. Thank you.
And finally, let's hear it for Daniel Yehoah from MathSpace.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I bet this isn't the first time you've heard about an adaptive math program, huh? So let's do this a little differently. I want you to think of an adaptive math program that you've seen before, whether it's Khan Academy or something else. And as you think about it, I'm going to guess that it falls within one of 2 basic paradigms. Either it's got a question and asks you to type the final answer, or it's multiple choice. So what's missing there, guys? What's missing is everything in between. How the student got the answer, their work, their reasoning process. And at MathSpace, we think math is more than just about getting the answer. So we've created a third paradigm. For the first time, Students can show all their work for every step of every math question, and our technology grades every step as the student completes it, giving them immediate formative feedback throughout the problem-solving process. So we have combined the teacher's gradebook, the student's notebook, and a digital textbook in a single cloud-based app. So we know textbooks are outdated, and while hardware is being rolled out, the software for math is lagging, and multiple choice is just guessing games. It's not the best way to learn math. We know the best way to learn math is to have a one-on-one tutor sitting right next to you, but that's expensive, so that's where MathSpace comes in. So for the first time, students can show all their work and input it into MathSpace, and those on mobile devices can use their finger or stylus and simply input it, and our digital handwriting recognition digitizes their handwriting. Our StepSmart technology grades every step automatically, so we can flag incorrect steps right at the point of misconception, right during the flow of problem solving, and get students back on track with hints and suggestions. Teachers can easily assign and manage work and monitor this in real time. So we have a full digital curriculum on top of this groundbreaking technology for grades 3 through to pre-calculus. Over 8,000 video tutorials were available on all devices, all platforms, Windows tablets, Android smartphones, and we have the world's smartest adaptive learning platform. Why is that? Because we collect more data than any other program. We collect data at every step of every question. So we know more about students, and we can use that insight to give them a more personalized path through the curriculum. And we have all the gamification, widgets, and project-based learning that make this an all-in-one digital resource. And this has led us to be recognized as winners at BET, the Association of American Publishers, and sweeping all the awards at ISTE a couple of years ago. So our business model, we focus on 3 segments: K-12, higher education, and the consumer market. So in K-12, we continue to grow our traction in the US and in our home market of Australia. And earlier this year, we were adopted by Hong Kong as their only digital math program after an international tender. This is a big feather in our cap, because as you probably know, Hong Kong rates second behind Singapore for math scores. In higher education, we've partnered with Pearson and their flagship digital franchise, My Math Lab. So 5 million students in community colleges and higher ed now have access to MathSpace. Again, this is a huge vote of confidence in our team, in our technology, and our ability to execute large-scale partnerships. I want to tell you about our consumer model. Earlier this month, we announced a partnership with Australia's second largest bank, Westpac. And we announced that every student in Australia now has access to MathSpace for free. This is a huge deal. And Westpac announced this on the occasion of their 200th birthday as a gift to the nation. And together we want to start a national conversation about the importance of numeracy skills for Australian students. Now, on top of that, parents can buy our premium offering as a home tutor. And they pay $10 a week instead of $50 an hour. But here's the catch. If their child completes their 3 assignments per week, we refund the $10 right into their Westpac bank account. So it's free if you use it. You can see this is a hugely disruptive model for online and offline tutoring. We've created a financial incentive for parents and students to get better at math. So we're looking for strategic partners to help bring this consumer model to the US and internationally. We know the market's huge, and I always fixate on the smallest number on this slide. $20 is what it costs an Indian student to buy the Akash 2 tablet. So we know the world's moving to digital and moving to mobile. That's where we've built MathSpace. The team has shown over the last 7 years an ability to innovate and execute on really challenging problems across tech, engineering, content, sales, partnerships, and business models. So who's our biggest competitor? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C, D, E, F? Well, what they all have in common is this is how they ask their questions. Multiple choice guessing games. We all know multiple choice is not the best way to learn math, and it's completely inadequate as you get to more rigorous middle and high school math. So our philosophy at MathSpace is simple. How you get your answer is more important than what the final answer is, because how you get your answer, that's where the learning's happening. That's the reasoning process. So naturally, we think that's where you should get your feedback, and not just at the end of the question. So to finish, we've been called the Holy Grail of math, because we've solved 3 very difficult problems in a single program. First, the ability for students to show their work and get feedback throughout that process, no matter how they solve that problem. Secondly, handwriting recognition, creating a fluid, pencil and paper-like environment And finally, the world's smartest adaptive learning engine, taking all of that data to really give precision pedagogy for every student. So I'd like to thank you here at MathSpace. We believe every student can excel at mathematics with the right help at the right time, and our mission is to be the right help at the right time for every student. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to our 3 winners, but I have one last request, and that's for an incredibly enormous round of applause for the incredibly brave and inspirational founders, all of whom pitched over the last 3 days as part of Global Silicon Alley. That's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. Please enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Phyllis Lockett.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I was taught that the world has a lot of problems, but that I could struggle and change them. That intellectual and material gifts brought the privilege and responsibility of sharing with others less fortunate. And that service is the rent each of us pays for living. It's the very purpose of life, not something you do, in your spare time or after you've reached your personal goals. These are the words and mantra that this year's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient has used to define her life and ultimately impact millions of children across our country. Marian Wright Edelman has been an advocate for disadvantaged Americans her entire life, a true champion of the civil rights movement. After being arrested for her activism, she attended Yale Law School to address racial bigotry and injustice head-on. She became the first Black woman admitted to the Mississippi Bar. There, she directed the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, where she worked on voter registration drives and supporting those who were in prison that were fighting for their right to vote. In 1968, she moved to Washington, D.C., and served as counsel for the Poor People's Campaign alongside Martin Luther King Jr. As founder and president of the Children's Defense Fund, she has worked tirelessly, speaking truth to power, to persuade Congress to overhaul foster care, support adoption, improve child care, and to protect children who are disabled, homeless, abused, and neglected. In 2000, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award. Marian Wright Edelman, an American hero, a national treasure, an icon on whose shoulders we all stand. Please join me in watching this video of this remarkable woman.
The year is 1960. Marian Wright Edelman was a student at Spelman College, an outstanding student.
It was during the height of the civil rights movement. She was one of these leaders who spoke up and spoke out against segregation and racial discrimination. She worked with Martin Luther King Jr. like we all did.
We were meeting somewhere every day, either at a lunch counter or in jail. And the first day of our jail experience, March 15, 1960, Marian was a part of that experience.
It was very dangerous. People had been beaten, arrested, jailed, but she went in places that others dared to go.
In the late 1960s, we used to go to Washington for the famous peace marches. We were all in awe of Marian.
I met Marian in 1967. I was working for Senator Robert Kennedy. We went to Mississippi because there was a big fight going on about the future of the Head Start program.
Marian Edelman had been an attorney at that time with the Legal Defense Fund and had taken Senator Kennedy and others on a tour to see hunger in real life and translated that into a national problem and received national attention. That really sparked the origin and the development of the Children's Defense Fund as a follow-up to the civil rights era and a focus on children specifically.
She founded the Children's Defense Fund. It became her baby.
Education is a critical part of our mission because we really see it as a continuation of children's civil rights. And if in fact children are going to thrive in school and thrive in the education realm, we've got to ensure that they're healthy.
You can't learn if you haven't eaten breakfast or lunch. You can't learn if you live in an abusive situation. You can't learn if you don't have good health care. So Marian thinks about the totality of all the social elements that have to be in place for young people to learn, but also to have all the opportunities that every other child has.
Marian grew up in a small town in South Carolina, totally segregated. That is what drove her. Her parents were absolutely determined that all 5 of the children in the family would go to college, and of course that was the bridge out.
Mrs. Edelman has taught us that education is a gateway for children. If you know better, if you learn better, if you have opportunity, then you have a fighting chance in this nation.
The work that she does now with the Freedom Schools, which is a major effort in over 100 locations in the United States, I think is her passion at the moment.
I speak to college students who participate during the summer in the Freedom School program. These are young people that are part of the Children Defense Fund to help educate, to help organize for the children in America.
Over the past 4 decades, Mrs. Edelman and the Children's Defense Fund's legislative impact on education has been tremendous.
Well over 80 or 90 different pieces of legislation have been put together over these past 4 decades, which really focus on all of the needs of children and families.
She has the capacity of inviting, persuading, and involving other people all the way from the local community to the halls of Congress.
She has taken solid and strong position with members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans. She's so determined to leave this little piece of real estate we call America a little better than we found it.
If you have a conscience, you cannot help but be touched by the kind of commitment she has made and the kind of commitment she calls us to be engaged in, to see every child as our child.
She takes you in and teaches you, but it's really the fire that she brings to everyone she meets that is infectious.
She's been that persistent moral voice and keeps us on track in terms of recognizing that we can't give up.
There's a cadre of people all over America, in every corner of our country, that follow her leadership, her vision.
The legacy of Marian Wright Edelman, I think, will be on that short dash between 2 dates, birth date and date of transition. She made a difference. Congratulations, Marian, and thank you for your commitment.
If there's anyone in America that should be honored the way she's been honored, it is her.
Marian deserves the Lifetime Achievement Award because she's never quit. Best wishes and much love.
Congratulations, Mrs. Edelman, for this award.
Thank you for all you do for children.
Congratulations, Marian. I am so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have always felt like the luckiest person in the world because I've always had a cause worth fighting for. But I also was born at the intersection of great events and great moral leaders, including my parents. And my first rebellion was when I was 4 years old. And I went up to the Belk's department store with one of my Sunday school and public school teachers, and I was thirsty, so I went and drank out of the white water fountain. Didn't know it was the white water fountain, wasn't reading really very well then, but my teacher was terrified, and she snatched me away. And I took my little psyche down and home crying and asked my parents what this was about. They made it clear that it wasn't about me, it was about the society in which we lived, but that we could, when you grow up, you can help change it. Well, I started right then because I began to sneak up to the department stores and others with black and white water fountains, and I would switch the signs so that, and that was one way of getting back. But I was also very lucky in that I always had great role models, people who didn't have a whole lot of money, but who showed by the grace of their lives their loves of children and shared what little they had. And I had great parents who always made clear that if we saw something we didn't like or a problem, that we could do something about it. Don't ask why somebody doesn't do something, ask why you don't do something. And I still think of my parents, and every time I attacked a new issue, but I was so lucky. Then I went off to Spelman College, and chapel was compulsory. And I rebelled, except that you would lose your quality points and grade point average, so I began to have to go. But the greatest speakers in America came through that chapel, from Dr. King to Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, his mentor. And Spelman gave me a whole new view of the ways in which I could make a difference. And I'm so grateful for that. And I often ask today, who are our 10 moral leaders in America? Who is Father Ted Hesburgh in higher education? You know, who is our person, Phil Hart or Wayne Morris, or the moral voices in bipartisan ways in the Congress? But again, having been exposed to people who didn't say, why doesn't somebody do something, why don't I do something? And as a child, I was very moved by that. And so when people ask me why I do what I do what I do because my parents did what they did, my community elders did what they did, and because they instilled a sense of justice and efficacy in me from the very beginning. And I'm very grateful, and I'm very grateful for this award, and I'm very grateful to be here with Kaya. She's just a rock star. And it shows you that you believe in children and have high expectations for children, that you can produce miracles. And I'm just very proud of her and delighted to be here with her. This is the most difficult time we've faced for children and for the safety net since I have been alive. We've had many, many changes before. During the Reagan years, the budget came in and they were trying to dismantle the entire safety net. But we decided that we would fight, and that the priority was to keep the laws in place because we lost the infrastructure of the laws that protected children and the poor, that we would take decades, if ever, to get them back. And here we are now facing 50 years later, and we succeeded in many ways. We lost billions of dollars, but we laboriously got it all back, and we continue to try to move forward for our children. But now I think this is the time for us all to come together to sort of figure out what we are going to do to make sure our nation moves forward for all of our children. Something is really wrong in our nation when we let our children be the poorest age group in America. We have 14.5 million children who are poor, and 6.5 million of those live in extreme poverty. The greatest threat to our national security does not come from any external enemy. The greatest threat to our military security does not come from any external enemy in many ways. It comes from our failure to invest in healthy, educated children who are going to be the leaders of the next generation. What is it about us that can tolerate a majority of all of our children, all racial and age group, not being able to read at 4th and 8th grade levels? And a majority of our children, we know what's happening on dropout rates, but over 70, majority of all of our children, all racial groups, cannot read or compute, but over 70% of our Latino children and nearly 80% of our black children in 4th and 8th grade cannot read or compute at grade level. That's sentencing a child to economic and social death. We can do better than that. 70% of our 17 to 24-year-olds cannot get in the military because they cannot read adequately. They have undiagnosed or untreated health problems. Who's going to be our military? Who's going to be representing us in this ever-increasing world? So we should be doing what is right for our children, but we better do it if it's in our self-interest to do, and do what is going to prepare this country to continue to lead the world, and to be competitive in the world. And I just want to make a very singular plea tonight, is that we should end child poverty in America, that we should turn the threat to the safety net and resist it, but by resisting it, we should put forward the proposals that we know are going to lead us forward and end the blight of child poverty in this country. It is a disgrace that 14.5 million children are poor and 6.5 million are extremely poor. And we cannot afford child poverty. We had Bob Solow, the Nobel laureate from MIT, do a cost of child poverty study for us. And he says that keeping 14.5 million children in poverty cost our nation about $500 billion every year, $500 billion in a year in foregone productivity and prison costs and dropouts. We can't afford to continue to do that. And we have this cradle to prison pipeline that we have got to break up. We are spending on average in our states 3 times more per prisoner than for public school pupil. That is about the dumbest investment policy you could have. It's time for us to end. And we know what to do. And we have made significant progress over the last almost 50 years that the Children's Defense Fund has been in existence. It is all at risk, but I'll just tell you, we are not going to go backwards. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to move forward. I'm not going to let my grandchildren fight these same battles again. And each of us must stand up and make sure that we continue to move forward. It is unworthy of us as a nation to let our children be the poorest group of citizens, and the younger they are, the poorer they are. We need a high-quality early childhood system in place so that children are ready for school. We now have 95% of all children covered by CHIP and Medicaid. It's on the chopping block. We must not let those programs be dismantled. We must move forward, but we need the voices of powerful people like you. And your children, there's no place to hide anymore. We're going to have to walk down the streets with those other people's children. And we all need to begin to give everybody a sense of hope, a sense that they are being cared for, and a sense of a future, and a sense of efficacy. And we can do that if we are going to have to do that, if we are going to move forward as a nation. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the great German Protestant theologian, said that I think we all know about him, he died opposing Hitler's Holocaust. But he said that the test of morality, and I would add the common sense of a society, is how it treats its children. But the United States is failing every second almost of every day. When we let a child be neglected or abused every 47 seconds, be born into poverty every 37 seconds, to be born and without health insurance every 64 seconds, but we've seen the trajectory of positive process, and that's beginning to change. And we have lost almost 180,000 children to gunfire in America since statistics began to be kept in 1963. When a child is injured or killed by a gun, every 3 hours, we can do better than that, and none of us is safe from the violence of guns. And so I just hope that we will take this time that I consider a time of crisis and challenge as an opportunity to move ahead, to build the movement that is long overdue, to end child poverty. It's the most cost-effective thing we can do. Bob Solow's calculations said every year we keep 14.5 million children in poverty, cost us $500 million. For about $67 billion that we estimated from the Urban Institute studies, we could decrease child poverty overall by 60% right now, and we could decrease Black child poverty by 72%. And I just hope that we will now launch on the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's death and the Poor People's Campaign, that we will launch a campaign to end child poverty in his honor, to put the program of prevention and early intervention in place so that our children can feel hope, and it's going to save us money. It's also going to save our soul as a nation. And so I just come here tonight to say I hope you will join with us, that we have got to begin to change the priorities in our nation, and our children have to come first. And so I hope that we can see your partnership as we move forward. We've got all the power we need to do that. And I just want to repeat what Albert Camus said a long time ago, And he was speaking to a group of Catholics at a Dominican monastery in 1948, and he said that perhaps we cannot prevent this world from being a world in which children are tortured, but we can reduce the number of tortured children. He described our responsibility as human beings, if not to reduce evil, at least not to add to it, and to refuse to consent to conditions which torture innocence. I continue, he said, to struggle against this universe in which children suffer and die, and so must every one of us. Only then will the cries of the prophets for justice and peace become a lasting reality. And I would like to think that the richest, most powerful nation in the world, militarily and in many ways economically, can set a goal and achieve a goal that says we're going to see that every child gets a healthy start, every child gets a head start, quality head start, every child is safe from gun violence, every child is going to get ready for school, and every child is going to be able to graduate from school and be a contributing citizen. And we can achieve that if we decide to put our children first. So that I hope that you will join me in trying to talk about setting a goal for the richest nation on earth to end the poverty of our children. That is a goal worth living and dying for. Thank you.